I'm going, Mother. I cannot stand by while innocent lives are lost. If no one else will defend the world from Ares, then I must. I have to go.
I know. Or at least I know I cannot stop you. There's so much. So much you do not understand.
I understand enough. That I'm willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Like you once did.
You know that if you choose to leave, you may never return.
Who will I be if I stay?
This belonged to the greatest warrior in our history. Our beloved Antiope. Make sure you're worthy of it.
I will.
Be careful in the world of men, Diana. They do not deserve you. You have been my greatest love. Today.
Hey everyone. So, oh my god, it's just like so quiet here. So thankfully there's like a bus bench where I can wait for my ride back to the shelter. But if I would have done this on the street, ideally I would have loved to have done it on the street. But then I realized that there might have been a lot of traffic noise. So, anyways, so my original intention is just a little history about me. I've worked with homeless people before with the Illumination Foundation. When the Illumination Foundation began, blah, 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 I actually was one of their coordinators for their children's department. Then I ended up quitting, blah, blah, blah. And years later, I ended up becoming homeless in Orange County. But having become homeless in Orange County, prior to working at the Illumination Foundation, there was a documentary done by Alexandria Pelosi called the Orange County Kids, or the Motel Kids of Orange County. And it documented how Orange County is one of the richest counties in America, but it has one of the highest rates of homelessness. And it's like a data thing. Like, a lot of people wouldn't see it in terms of like when you look at it on a face value, but I guess percentage wise, based on like the amount of people who are homeless and the amount of people who are amount of money that we make. And so when I worked there, basically I was like a babysitter. So when I had watched the children, my job was to keep them in like one confined area and make sure that they were safe while their parents were in the program. And so while I was in that program, working there, I had met some of the parents, and some of the stories, because HIPAA law, you're not allowed to like talk about them, but I had learned what it looked like to be homeless, and that a lot of times in Orange County, and I think this is what Alexandria Pelosi's main message was making the kids of Orange County is you see motel kids, and then you think of one thing, and then you think of Orange County, and then you think of another. So they're two things that are totally the opposite of the other. And so having worked there, I kind of got some insight in terms of what a homeless person looks like in Orange County. And a lot of times we would think that a homeless person is just some lazy person who gave up on life, and a lot of times the story is so much different when you actually work at a homeless shelter and you get to know every individual person and their story. And that process, when I was in Arizona, I actually got certified for what I'm doing right now. It's called Ethos. It's when you write, in Greek there's different words, and so the term ethos just basically means that I'm name dropping so that I can validate the point that I'm going to bring up next. And so I say all of that because When I became homeless, probably I was like 31. I'm 36 now, and then I had some shelter, and I lived in my own place. Oh, look, there's a butterfly! I can't even catch it. So I ended up becoming homeless, and I already had my whole addiction, and I didn't know how to stop it. And then I went to Arizona, and I got some tools there, and then I came here, and I got certified in peer support, where I learned how to have all these tools in terms of how to like build someone up. So when I made this plan about focusing on going towards my goals, my goal is to graduate college and then like pursue my goals, and if God wants me to get married and have a family, and so if not, then travel and like do all these little projects, so that way when I'm gone, then I have accomplished X, Y, and Z. But so now that I'm here, I wrote a little plan, and one of the plans that I want to do, because I'm a psychology major, it's human services and psychology. The first level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is physiology. I kind of can't recall all the time because it's the first level, but basically it's like safety, and it's all the essential things that humans need. And so you go on my Instagram, you'll see that there's a pyramid, and right now everybody who is working in this place, they've already went up the pyramid, where they pass physiological, and they're in the second or the third or the fourth. And then you can, if you're a student of psychology, you can literally see people going up this pyramid of hierarchy of needs. And so for me, this whole confessional is for me to be able to talk about being homeless, my own experience, because everybody, just like being LGBTQ, everybody has their own story and has their own gender identification, and everybody has their own story in terms of how they became homeless. So for me, this is my basic first level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and so I wanted to categorize the first subject of the things that I wanted to speak about, and things that I would speak about and talk about. Shit's real. So a lot of people don't know that, like, when I was 25, I ended up getting fired from a job, and I still lived at home, and then I ended up working for the homeless shelter, and then I ended up working for other places, and I went to school. But I had spent some time on my own, and I was like renting rooms and couch surfing, and then when I went back home, and I was like, okay, I have this addiction, but I'm going to try to like wing it off. So I would go to school in the morning, and then I would go to work, and then I'd come home, and I didn't know what was inside of me that was like eating me alive at that time. And so a lot of people don't know that when I hit 31, it was actually my second time being homeless, but it was my first time ever hitting concrete ground. And so when I talk about being 31 and having hit concrete ground, where I actually had to sleep under a bridge and sleep on a bench and kind of have no food or anything, that's where I came up with the subject, shit's real. And so a lot of times people in the homeless community or in life fail to, for whatever issue they're facing or problem that they're coming, fail to see the magnitude of it. And so for me, I was like, this shit's real. This shit's so real. And so I knew that it was an uncomfortable cousin. I knew that it was an uncomfortable situation, but I knew for two reasons. I knew that, actually one reason, I knew that whatever I had did prior to me getting homeless, I didn't learn something in order that I didn't learn something mentally, or I didn't experience something in life that prepared me to avoid that. And so when I went all around the city, and when I went all around the city looking for shelter, because in Orange County there's not really a lot of places. Like in Arizona, they're real quick to be able to get you housing, to get you food. They have an abundance of food. They have all these different places. They have churches that are willing to reach out for you. So the system is a little different there versus here in California. People are a lot more afraid in Orange County, and they are not understanding and aware of why people are becoming homeless, because of the stereotype of what homelessness has been for so many years. And so this is the reason why, for me, while I'm moving up that Maslow hierarchy of needs, I purposely use the word bum, because in the gay culture, we've been called faggot, we've been called all different types of things, but what the gay culture has learned through other communities and through their own struggle is that by taking the word in itself and applying it to their everyday life, they're taking the power out of the word. And so, so if someone said a faggot, I'll be like, bitch, faggot, you know. And so no longer does that word hurt me like it used to hurt me growing up as a child. So my intention of saying, oh, I'm on a bus bench and I am a bum on a bus bench, and these are a bus bench, what is a bus bench, I can't even recall the name, but anyway, so I'm using the word bum purposely to take the connotation, the negative connotation, in terms of how society, especially in Orange County or just even in the world, and how they see the homeless community. Because one, I professionally know it, and two, I personally know it. And so if I can know these things and do my best to stay out of it, and I've kind of been playful a little bit in terms of how I mainstream myself back into culture, because I can afford to, because I don't have children, and I'm a single man here. But I say that because a lot of people, there's an urgency to get back into the community and mainstream. So I love that. It's you know, it's the rat race from bottom to the top, blah 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 blah. But so all these things I kind of like. I didn't plan what I was going to say. All these things are like bullet points. So the main thing is that when you do encounter homelessness, it's a shocker. So, for example, I talked about it before in one of my confessionals about how I probably went like 8 or 9 times back to my parents' house, who lived in Santa Ana, and my sister would answer the door, and sometimes she wouldn't answer the door, and she'd be like, I'm sick and tired of your shit. Get your shit together. You half-ass shit. And so I just needed a place to, like, you know, do this and blah 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 or that. And she wanted so much more for me. When she wanted so much more for me, wanting so much more for me came from a place of her saying no to me. And so her saying no to me brought me to a place where I said shit's real. So once I understood, at least from my sister's, oh, there's the butterfly again. Once from where I understood from my sister's perspective about why it was important for her to say no to me, I knew that, okay, what I had been doing prior, going to school, even relapsing and working, going through, it wasn't enough. And I knew that there was something that while I was on the streets, I had to experience it on my own. And I wasn't going to let time pass by. I want to get this butterfly, this huge ass butterfly right there. Anyways, it just came all the way around to say hi. So I knew that shit got real. So the reason why I wanted to target shit gets real is because in Orange County there's not a lot of places where you can go to find shelter. Like right now, they're just pushing people around, and some people are going place to place. I have no idea where they're going, but they used to have it in the courtyard, and they had assigned a community leader to do that, and then they closed it, and now they have CityNet doing certain things. But I don't get into the politics part of it because I'm a student of psychology and my major is human services. So my main focus in even speaking about this is to get into the understanding part of it by speaking my own truth and being able to talk about how it relates to psychology and how it relates to the community in itself. Because a lot of people don't want to talk to you if you've never been through it yourself. So, but dang, there's 2 butterflies. Dang, it's like butterfly central right now. So, I didn't know exactly what I was going to say. I just knew that when I did become homeless, that when I know I probably went to quite a few different shelters because as soon as I got in there, my first reaction, and I don't know what the psychological term of it is, but there's probably like a compilation of things that people go through mentally where they want the best, but then they feel like it has to happen in an instant. And so I would enter into a shelter. I don't know. I would enter into a shelter, and I would have every good intention to do good and do well. And then for some reason, I found myself back on a bus bench, questioning and wondering, what am I doing? Where am I going to go? And how am I going to get to the next place? And so I'm very little money. So I can even recall the times when I'd be sitting on the bus bench and my mind would be racked. I'm like, Lua, you're an intelligent person. This is what you did for work. This is something that if someone had walked in an office, you would be able to know how to help them. But now this time, hi Jeremiah. I think that's my nephew. I don't know. I can't really say. Hi. Hello. So at that time, I didn't. As a professional myself, I didn't know what to do. And so this is why I feel like in the first stage of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's physiological. And so the pyramid has to do with psychology. So psychology has to do with mind. So if you're provided the basic needs, which is, I'll probably post it later, it is almost too difficult, even for a professional and somebody who has done it for work, to be able to mentally get yourself out of that state, who's been through depression and blah, 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 to get their mental state into the right place where they need to get back into the mainstream. It took me a long time. Actually, it took me to get sober, one, and it also took me to get my personal relationship with God together. And that's my personal story, but I know that's not everybody's personal story because I have seen it work, but I can't. But dang, but I know that's not everybody's story. So what I wanted to share about is not only to share a backstory, but also to be able to put the message out there that when someone is homeless, that it's more than just getting the basic needs together. It's more than just being housed. It's more than just having food in your belly, and it's also more than having clothes and a place to be. Because once you have those things, to get your mind in the place to get you to the second level is to get your mind into a place to move you up the ladder. And thankfully, when I was in Arizona, I was able to get my mind to a place through a program that got me to get myself to move up to. So now that I'm here back in California, I can do it. And people are like, "Aren't you just saying the same thing?" And I was like, "Yes." And but I wanted to artistically express myself in a way where I blabber a lot, and I also wanted to be able to say that, I think a lot of Orange County looks at homeless people anywhere in whatever situation, and unfortunately I can't, or I'm not allowed to talk about some of the stories of the people I know who have been through it, because I think that those examples would have been a lot better in terms of describing a homeless individual. But I think knowing that for them at the first stage, and whether you believe it or not, there are levels to this game. Everybody's got levels. And in psychology, they label these levels. And then they have fathers in psychology who are people who implement it in the diagnostic statistic manual, and they have psychologists and psychiatrists prescribe medicine, inform and teach students and people this so that way they can best benefit and help the community in itself. And so I didn't really have like any pointers in terms of what it for the world on the outside, because I don't want to come off as a person who says I know it all. I think that if you really cared and if you really wanted to know about someone else's struggle, you would go about helping that person in a way where it would best benefit you and help you understand that. So that's not for me to be saying, hey, you got to do this and you got to help me, because even now I'm homeless, and when people who are homeless, they ask me for money, I don't give them any money. That's my personal belief, because one, I don't have it to give, and two, I know the way it is out on the streets, that everybody knows how to get what they fucking want. And so everybody knows how to survive. And, unless you're some old person and you're freezing and you need food, then that's different. Or you're a child and you're lost and you need to be put into a shelter, then that's different. But aside from that, I don't want to be the advice giver, the person who says this is what you have to do. But what I do want in my schooling and in my future goals is to be able to put the message out there is that shit is so real. It is, and that sometimes when you're going up that pyramid of success, you forget what it's like to be on the struggle down here. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad or make anybody feel like they're doing something wrong, because then all this talking would be in vain. There's no point in me talking if you left not feeling better or heard and didn't feel any better about yourself. It's not the goal of psychology or any spiritual transformative program is for you to leave that program and to feel like a worse person. You're supposed to feel like you got your money's worth, basically. And so what I do want to say is that for people in the streets, take your time, I guess, but also don't rush it. I looking back, I can give a bunch of advice, but I know that my training for peer support says that I'm not supposed to give you advice and tell you. I'm supposed to just listen to you and tell you this is your journey. You get to figure out how you want to choose to go about it. And everybody can say what they want, but at the end of the day, it's your life. You get to do whatever you want to do with it. And so aside from the first stage, I think one of the biggest thing is being able to take a deep breath, think about where you're going to go, and if Google or go to a church and reach out to a community, probably they have 211 or social services, and contact them and tell them that you're in need of a place to go, and don't overwhelm yourself, because a lot of times it's after being rejected or having to come to terms with being rejected, or after being through things in life and not being able to have the tools to know how to deal with it, and then having to come to terms with saying I don't know what to do, and then being out here alone and saying I don't know how to do it or what to do, you can feel really stuck in a place. And so when you get to a point, however you tell yourself, if you tell yourself, and I hope you tell yourself, so you're not avoiding the obvious, that I'm trying to say this because it sounds better, but hopefully you tell yourself that this shit is real, because a lot of people spend time as a homeless person, and there's resources available to them, but because they're so caught up in their brain and their head and have been through so much trauma because of drugs and their upbringing, that's a huge thing. Their upbringing, a lot of these people forget about that a lot. I used to do self-defense, and I'll start ending now, is that I used to do self-defense with, we used to teach children how to defend themselves, and one of the mentors of mine had said that when police are called to a home for domestic violence, they'll go and they'll break up the fight, and they'll, kind of impromptu counsel the parents and say, oh, don't do that, and they'll take mom and dad or someone, will have to be separated, and then they'll be brought back together, because in child protective services, that's the ultimate goal, is to keep the family together. But what we had learned in self-defense is the issue of those calls for a domestic violence or a home where someone grows up in an environment that's not good for them, is that no one ever follows up on the family. No one ever goes back to the house and say, hey, how are you still doing? Is everything okay? So what happened is that the fire was put out, but then someone starts another fire, and so we have a community in Orange County where people grow up in that world. Thankfully I didn't, but in addition to not having that, you grow up and then you ultimately never know how to receive the understanding or the tools to learn how to become a better person. Because the ultimate goal of being a citizen here is not for you to be stuck or to be lost in your head or in the past. It's to grow and heal as a person. And so eventually, if you can come to a place, and I use the word shit's real, is because here in the streets, if you talk too fancy and you talk too scientifically, you can kind of scare some people away. But you don't want to do that. So you want to use language that's going to be able to get them to say, oh, I get what you're trying to say. So it's serious and shit's real. And so I do apologize if I didn't have anything to say, but my main goal was to talk about how, for me, myself personally, it wasn't easy, and it still isn't easy because technically I'm still on the bus bench. but I don't have that mindset anymore. I don't have that mindset anymore in terms of I'm lost, because I feel a lot more empowered and I feel stronger in the sense where I know how to plan. That's not easy either, especially because I'm alone. Like, I don't have friends or family or a community that looks like me to be able to rely on. I have to do everything on my own in a span of time and be able to set it out in goals where that way I don't overwhelm myself and I don't put myself in situations that could be tempting, where I could relapse and fall back into old behavior. Because so that takes a lot of work, not just clocking in 9 to 5, or it takes a lot of work in terms of being able to work on your mind, which is psychology, your heart, spirituality, and your body, which is the actual work that you put into saying, oh, this is me, I'm a janitor, or I'm a bus driver. So but I hope that having said all that and kind of throwing it at everybody, and that you like my new haircut, that you're able to understand from a different perspective, or at least if you knew me once upon a time or just don't know me and you're like, oh man, what is this guy saying, is that we no longer speak words of defeat into the homeless community, that we're starting to speak words of life and love and healing into the homeless community, by saying, hey, we got to help the people who need help, and put all of our personal feelings aside, and that does take time, but eventually, as a community, like many other communities, we can do it. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed my little talk. I do have a couple more, and then Lord willing, once I stack my chips up, I'll be moving up to the second hierarchy of needs. And she's beautiful. She was really beautiful. She had like really beautiful eyes. And anyways, so there's a second hierarchy, and I'm not like professional, because in psychology you kind of target your community, and so I'm not targeting this community, but since I'm here, I might as well be the nerd of the community and kind of point out reasons why. So anyway, I'm gonna try to do a twerk video with the time that I got, because I don't think anybody's coming by 2 o'clock, so don't laugh at me if I do something trying to like do a little bucket list of fun, stupid stuff. So, anyways, I'm gonna tune out, and love you guys, love yourself, and be good to one another. All right, bye bye.